What is up everyone, and welcome to some more F1 22. This time we're at the Emilia Romagna Grand Prix in Imola. Last time out we were at the Chinese Grand Prix. I definitely recommend checking out that video if you haven't already. It was a pretty good one. We started on pole, we fell down the order, and then we managed to battle our way back to the win in the end. So yeah, I'd recommend going and checking out the progression of that race because it was a banger. Probably one of the most fun races we've done this season, in my opinion. You know, rivaling Bahrain in terms of that sort of satisfaction of battling your way up to P1, making the overtake, pulling it off, and then sailing off into the sunset. At this point, I've accepted that Chris is just a different nationality now. He was French before, but you know, maybe the French Chris retired and maybe he's been replaced by an English doppelganger. In any case, we've had an upgrade fail, but that's okay. We'll just do the practice sessions, get the resource points in, and then put it on the car ready for the next Grand Prix, which I think is going to be in Miami, but I'm not 100% sure on that. Either way, we've got to focus on Imola. It's back. It was off the calendar last season, and now we've put it back on the calendar for this season. It will remain on any future calendar I do. And yeah, I remember it not going particularly well. I believe the title of the video in the first season when I did it was something along the lines of, "I hope I never have a race like this again." I proceeded to have many more races like what I was alluding to, where basically it was just full of me falling off the back out of the AI around me and not being able to compete with anyone around me. And then they kind of fixed that, and ever since then it's been a lot of fun. And yeah, we're currently not super high up the order in terms of car performance, but we've been able to compete in a lot of these races, and that's kind of all I really want to see. So I'm hoping that this will go a little bit better than it went last time. Ideally, we want a top 5 finish to get the sponsor targets. I definitely think I'm going to rejig the sponsor targets a tiny bit because it's kind of very reliant on us getting top 5 at least, and ideally top 3, which is something I want to be aiming for, but it's not going to be doing myself any favors. I'm not going to be getting any closer to that if I'm not making any money at the end of the races because my sponsor targets are completely impossible. So we're definitely going to look at potentially reducing those somewhat as the season progresses. For now, yeah, we're just going to have to try and do what we can. But I think here we're going to really struggle to get into the top 3, and even the top 5 might be quite difficult to break into. But if I can get there, then that would be great. I still am absolutely in love with the livery on our car. Let me know what you guys think of it, but I think I've done a really good job with this one this year. And yeah, we're ready to get into qualifying. First lap is a 1:15.9, and that was on a fresh set of soft compound tyres. I think we're probably going to end up doing another run though, because I think the AI around us are doing much faster times. In the end, we don't do another run though. We just about managed to hold on. Enzo Fittipaldi is actually right with us at the moment. That's a testament to how poor I am at driving this track, maybe, is that yeah, Fittipaldi is sort of close to us on pace. But yeah, we get through with one run on one set of tyres, and it's good enough for P14 in the session, but it's okay. And now we're coming to Q2, where I definitely did 2 runs. First run is a 1:16.2. That was on the same set of tyres that I set my 1:15.9 in the previous session. So, you know, we're sort of consistent on our pace, but hopefully we can improve slightly, because I don't think a 1:15.9 or a 1:15.8 is going to be good enough to get us through Q3. Unfortunately, we don't improve by that much. It's only a 10th. It's a 1:16.1. Maybe I made a few mistakes on my lap, I don't know. And we only get P12. There was definitely more potential in this qualifying session, and we've kind of squandered it. So yeah, that's only going to be good enough for us to get P12 here in the end. And annoyingly, if we'd have even done what we did in P1, we would have been through. So yeah, immensely frustrating there to have that happen, but it's okay. We've got a sprint before our race, so maybe we can make up some time in the sprint and start slightly further up the order come the race. Max Verstappen slowly closing us down in this rivalry. I think he's going to close us down even more over the course of the weekend. You know, the Red Bull is fast at every track, and we're only fast at the tracks where I personally am fast at driving them, and Imola is unfortunately not one of those tracks. I remember when they introduced Imola and Portugal to the games originally, I really did struggle with them quite a lot. Portugal I slowly got to grips with. I think I'm actually pretty decent at that track now. Imola, no dice. It's probably one of my worst tracks in Formula 1, to be honest, at the moment, apart from maybe Monaco. And I mean, even Suzuka I was doing a lot better at recently. So yeah, honestly, I would call Imola probably my weakest track in Formula 1 at the moment, beyond even Monaco. We're definitely going to get the aero upgrade on the car for Miami, which is nice, and we'll see what we can do with regards to raising enough capital to get our aero facility upgrade sharpish, so we don't have a stagnation in development. But in any case, we are now getting into the sprint.
Speed in today's sprint, not very many laps and no chance to get ahead on strategy. Who here today has the raw skill to take them to the top?
And now he won't say any more until he runs down the driver grid order, because that's how sprint races work. But yeah, I hope from P12 maybe we can battle back into the points. But at the very least, I want us to get into a position where we can contend for a decent amount of points in the race on Sunday.
Off the back of a fantastic qualifying session, it's time to see how our starting grid looks for today's sprint. Lando Norris will lead us away from pole position, and starting next to them is George Russell. As we continue through the rest of the grid today, we have Perez, Hamilton, Charles Leclerc and Ricciardo, Gasly, Sainz, Ocon and Alex Albon, Verstappen, Robinson, Fernando Alonso and Magnussen, Fittipaldi, Mick Schumacher, Yuki Tsunoda and Christian Lundgaard, Joe, Schwartzman, Latifi and Lance Stroll brings the grid to a close. Which of these drivers will get pole position today? We'll soon find out.
Okay, now that we've got some good points on the board, let's continue this form and aim for another top 10 finish.
No strategy, obviously. I don't know why I was even checking. Everyone's going to be going mediums to the end. I think it's 11 laps. And yeah, we've definitely got some cars around us we can fight with. Albon, Gasly, Ocon. If I can get ahead of those guys, that would be the ideal scenario, I think.
Stay in formation and start bringing the car up to temperature, please. Get some load into the tyres and work the brakes. We want them nice and warm by the end of this lap.
So yeah, we try and do our best to warm up the tyres. We've done a pretty decent job, I would say. Now it's just park accurately. I've actually overshot it slightly, which isn't great. But maybe if the tyres are warm enough, I'll be able to contend with the cars around us. We got Alonso for company. I can't seem to escape him, no matter how hard I try. But yeah, we'll see whether we can keep him at bay. It's a pretty good launch. I think we're going to get Albon pretty much immediately here. He didn't have the best of launches. We're going to actually go up the middle of him and Verstappen, which is a very bold move. And yeah, I back out of it quite early. Make a little bit of contact, but we managed to stay ahead. For now, Albon actually does sneak past us in the end, and one of the McLarens is off there. I'm not sure which one that is. I didn't see. But yeah, if it's Ricciardo, not too dissimilar to real life Imola last year, where him and Sainz took each other out at the beginning of the race. Now you see I'm going to try to go up around the outside of Albon as Alonso goes up the inside of both of us, and in the end I lose out to both drivers. And I'm now down in P12 once again where I started, and we're under pressure from Magnussen, who actually gets ahead of us as well, you can see there, and now Schumacher is attacking us as well, but I've already lost enough positions, so I'm not going to give away that one as easily as I gave away some of the others. And yeah, that is pretty much what happened at the start of the race. Now we're looking at Lance Stroll, and he's pulling off to the side of the circuit on lap 2. Not a good omen for his weekend if he couldn't even make it around 2 laps without his car breaking down, but hell, I think they've got the worst car on the grid in Aston Martin at the moment, so maybe it's to be slightly expected. Either way, we're going to try and keep Schumacher behind for as long as we can, but I don't know if he's going to have other plans for our race. Meanwhile, I'm kind of closing on Magnussen up front, but This sequence of like the 2 chicanes I've been taking really slowly. We make a tiny bit of contact with Schumacher there as he goes for a very audacious move up the inside of us as we go into the chicane. But I can't blame him because I don't know why, but I just couldn't seem to take them in a way that was as fast as the cars around me. So if anyone has any advice on how to take those chicanes, please let me know for future races around here. Because I was suffering today quite significantly. Lap 8 now, we're looking at George Russell, and he's Charles Leclerc'd it, but managed to just about keep it out of the barrier. So yeah, he will be able to rejoin this race, but he's got to wait for everyone to drive past before he can rejoin the circuit. So that is going to be the end of his chances of grabbing points here. Here's me coming past him now, and there's actually a safety car for how much he's been stopped on track. So with only 3 laps to go, they've decided to deploy a safety car, which I can only imagine is going to last for 1 lap maximum, but maybe that's all it needs to last for. So yeah, a bit of a weird one, but I guess we'll see if we can maybe capitalize on the restart and make up a few positions here. And now here we go, ready for the restart. We're going to try and get ahead of Magnussen off the restart, and we're just about alongside him. We tuck in behind him. We'll see if we can go up the inside or maybe around the outside of him, depending on where he defends to. I think it's going to be the outside. He brakes late, and he actually boffs us off the track there as someone else maybe takes a bit of damage there. I'm not sure who that was. But he pushes us off the track, and we're going to do the Lewis Hamilton thing of being like, well, I had nowhere to go, and I would have overtaken him if he hadn't forced me off the track. So I'm just going to try and hold on to the position and see what I can do. And now we're going for a move on Albon as well. And all of a sudden, we've made up a couple of positions here. So a position that wasn't looking too great for us is now looking like we might be on the fringes of points if we can close down this Alpine in front of us. I think it's Alonso, but I'm not 100% sure which one it is. It is indeed Alonso. So if we can get ahead of him, that'd be great. But we've just about run out of time at this point, really, as we come onto the final sector of the final lap of the sprint. It's been a pretty eventful one. There's been lots of things happening, a DNF even, and we managed to make our way up from P12 to P9 by capitalising on the misfortune of a few of the drivers around us. Magnussen will come home P10 just behind us, and yeah, not a terrible result, but certainly something we want to hopefully improve on. If we can maybe make up a few positions in the race as well, up to sort of P7, P6, P5 ideally, so we can get at least one of those sponsor bonuses. That would be just absolutely fantastic, but we'll see what happens.
Let's have a look then at the driver's standings. Well, it wasn't the best weekend for our championship leader, and their advantage at the top has been reduced. Let's move on to the constructors. Ferrari continue to extend the gap at the top of the table. Well, that wraps up the sprint. All that remains is the main event. We'll be live and uninterrupted for the Grand Prix tomorrow, so make sure you join us then.
So Norris wins the sprint, and in doing so closes me down, closes my lead at the top to, I believe it was 6 points at the top of the table. So we're going to have to do quite a lot to try and stop him from overtaking us in the championship. Really, we'd have to get on the podium to mitigate that damage completely. But it's probably more likely we're just going to be we're just going to have to trade places with him once again. I think we traded places with him after Australia, and 2 races later we're probably going to be doing the same thing. So it looks like this battle is definitely going to be shaping up to be between myself and Norris. And now it is time for us to get into the race and find out what happens.
Welcome once again to the Autodromo Internazionale Enzo e Dino Ferrari. The clue's in the name. This is very much Ferrari home turf, and the locals will be out in force today to support their team in what we hope will be a magnificent spectacle of motorsport. On then to the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix. Unlike most Formula One tracks, Imola is driven anti-clockwise and offers our drivers today just over 3 miles of glistening wet tarmac to negotiate. It's made up of a roughly equal split of 9 right-hand turns and 10 left-hand. Watch the drivers on the way into turn 16. Managing their speed there will be crucial, with the rain only adding to the difficulty of that downhill braking section, which then, of course, leads into the track's longest straight, though no DRS there today, of course. It's time to take a look at our starting grid for today's race. Lando Norris put in a fantastic lap yesterday, and he'll start from pole position. And Lewis Hamilton completes the front row. Looking at the rest of today's grid, we have Verstappen, Sainz, Esteban Ocon, and Fernando Alonso. Robinson, Magnussen, Albon, and Mick Schumacher. Tsunoda, Leclerc, they'll be starting further back after an earlier grid penalty. Enzo Fittipaldi and Lundgaard. Gasly, they've taken a grid penalty. Joe, George Russell, and Daniel Ricciardo. Schwartzman, Perez, Latifi, they'll be starting further back after an earlier grid penalty. And Lance Stroll brings the grid to a close. Which of these talented drivers will come out on top today? Well, it's not going to be plain sailing for our drivers today, although with the sky falling as it is, perhaps sailing isn't too far from the truth. Anthony Davidson could be a wet one today. Great to have you with us. What are your thoughts?
It is a touch damp, isn't it? Well, as a driver, there are three big things to worry about when racing in these kind of conditions: standing water, tyre temperature, and visibility. Judging distance to the cars around you is really tricky when you're driving through the vast amounts of spray that these wet weather Pirelli tyres kick up.
Well, it's raining, so GG. We have made up a couple positions off of grid penalties, which is very early in the season to be taking them. It's only race 5, so I'm not really sure what's happening with that. But yeah, we are going to really struggle while it's raining, I imagine. It does look pretty light, so maybe it's going to end soon. But yeah, I've never been fast in the wet, and I'm not anticipating that I'm going to be particularly fast in the wet here either. Indeed, you can see on the formation lap, I pretty much left the line at the same time as Alonso, and yet he got so far ahead of me there, it was ridiculous. We get into our grid slot, and we actually park correctly this time, and we're going to have to really, really try to get a good start here, because goodness me, I am not going to be able to get good traction or out of any corner while it's raining. I know that for a fact. And the lights go out, and now it's time for us to get into the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix proper. We had the sprint race earlier. We're already under pressure from Magnussen, and he's already gotten ahead of us. In fact, we're going to try and go up his inside if we can. We're going to brake late, and we brake so late, in fact, that we curb the inside of Ocon and Alonso as well, and somehow we've managed to make that move stick. We definitely made contact with them, we definitely cut the chicane, but the game didn't give us a warning. It didn't call them illegal overtakes, so I don't know what happened there. All I know is that now I'm in P5 somehow. So I'm going to just do what I can to hold on to this. My gearbox is very worn. I don't know if you saw that. It's at 68%, so that's another thing we're going to have to worry about in this race. We'll see if it can last the entire duration, because once it gets past 75, obviously it's going to be yeah, pretty tricky to guarantee that that's going to be not blowing up basically before the end of the race. So that's another dimension that we've got to worry about here. Being slow everywhere, having a worn gearbox. There's going to be more gear shifts while it's raining, in fact, because you have to get down to a lower speed and a lower gear to be able to turn through the corners. And it's just not a track I'm very good at to begin with either. So whilst we're in P5 now, I really sincerely doubt this is where we are going to finish. And now we are here on lap 4, and Mark is saying that apparently there's a new strategy coming up or something. We'll have a look. And they think that next lap it's going to be time for softs. I don't know if I agree. The track still looks pretty wet, but if they think the grip is there, then perhaps the grip is there, and we'll see what happens. We're still under pressure from Ocon behind us, who is you know, always within a few tenths at the moment. I see the cars in front are actually coming into the pits, and so I'm like, well, I'm not gonna deliberately go round another lap if being on the dry tyres is going to be faster for me. So we end up coming in on lap 4, in fact, and at least my worries about the track being hard to race on because it's wet, as we see a vision of God or something. At least my worries about the track being wet are kind of alleviated by the fact that we only had to do 4 laps on the intermediate tyres before the track dried out. So yeah, now we're going to be pitting again on the mediums later, but yeah, we're on the softs for now, and the track has dried out. Gasly has yet to come in for his intermediate tyres, or for his soft tyres I should say, and he's not going to because his car has broken down. So that's the end of his race. He's going to be pulling off to the side of the road, and yeah, he is out, but there was no safety car, so we get to move through the race. Lap 10, we're still under pressure from Ocon, but it's not quite as severe anymore on account of the fact that whilst he might have DRS, we only need to burn battery really on the main straight, and everywhere else we have the pace to defend from him, at least for now. And yeah, the only place on the whole track I felt fast today is Agua Minerale. As you can see there, I built the gap between myself and Ocon about 2/10, and that's pretty much the only place on this whole track that I was looking at like, yeah, I actually feel like I've got a good amount of pace coming through Agua Minerale. So yeah, I guess I'm an Agua Minerale merchant today if I manage to hold on to this position, but we'll see what happens, and just try and defend as best we can. For now, we've managed to hold on to this position so far, but I imagine as we come onto lap 11, Ocon with the DRS is going to be pushing us down, and we're going to have to defend from him again. But he's not closing up as much as you'd think, and indeed we managed to keep him behind for now. And as we get onto lap 15, he's actually been overtaken by Russell, but we are coming into the pits to fit the medium tyres. This is going to be the last stop of the race. Hopefully we don't see a vision of God this time, and the screen will maintain its usual multicoloured tone. Yeah, it seems like we're all right this time. 11 laps on the softs is not a bad amount to do. Now we're going to have to do about 16, 17 on the mediums, and yeah, we'll come out and see what we're able to do on these. I reckon Russell is probably going to get ahead of us. It's pretty impressive given that he started way down the order because of that crash that he had, or the spin, I guess, that he had in the sprint. And yeah, he really, you know, suffered because of that, but it doesn't seem like it's affected him too much. He could definitely still be on for a P5 finish here if he gets ahead of us. Come to the DRS zone. We're on lap 6 now, lap 16 rather, lap 17 starting. And yeah, Russell is closing and closing and closing. I think he's going to try and have a look up our inside here as we defend to the outside. He does look up the inside, and in the end he just sends it way too far into the corner for us to even think about attacking him back. We probably would have got forced off the track, a la what happened with Magnussen. And I don't think I mentioned it at the time, but I actually took front wing damage when Magnussen did that, which means I didn't really want to do it again, which I think you can understand. We're now on to lap 22, and the gap between Russell and Ricciardo is pretty similar. We're just burning all the battery we can to try and keep Ricciardo out of our DRS range, because if he gets within DRS range, it's going to be way harder to defend from him than it is when he's outside of it. At least defending the gap, I guess, rather than defending the actual position. But you know what I mean. If I can maintain the gap, that would be the perfect scenario. We speed through the lap a little bit, and I think we got a little bit of a warning there about the gearbox wear, but that's absolutely fine. And you see that the gap has maintained sort of relatively stable over the course of this lap, but on the whole, I think Ricciardo is maybe closing us down a little bit. Ocon seems to have fallen off for the most part, and the gearbox is now at 74%, so yeah, we're going to really struggle to bring that one home, I think. Speaking of people struggling to bring things home, Albon there speeds past Perez, who I think went wide at one corner or something like that, and then basically immediately after that's happened, Albon has broken down, his car stopped working, Perez speeds back past him, and Albon pulls off the track, and that is another DNF in this race, which brings the total number of cars in this race down to 20. Lap 27 now, we are under pressure from Daniel Ricciardo. He has closed us down quite significantly, but you know, we were able to defend from Ocon, so I'm sure we'll be able to defend from Ricciardo as well, and we'll see if he's able to pile any kind of pressure on us, mount any kind of attack on us, or whether we are just gonna, you know, kind of stay ahead of him. You know, catching is one thing, passing is a very different thing indeed. He tries to have a go at us into that chicane, but he just doesn't have the position. We fight him back, and now he's fallen off once again, plus L plus ratio, and we are 1.4 seconds ahead of him, which means we are able to break the DRS from him, and he will have a harder time catching us again. And indeed, it isn't until the final lap of the race that he really catches up to us once again. We are still in P6. It's a bit unfortunate because I was really hoping for a top 5 finish here, and if we'd have managed to defend from Russell, we would have had one, but I think the Mercedes just had a bit too much pace over us this weekend. However, the McLaren didn't, and whilst Norris is still having a good time out in front. We are able to defend from his teammate. We managed to somehow defend through that chicane by basically forcing him to brake, or causing a crash or going off the track. And that now actually puts him under pressure from Leclerc, which I think is going to enable us to hold on to this position for the rest of the race, because if he's defending that, he is not really going to be able to mount much of an attack on us. And yeah, that's what I like to see. Max Verstappen wins the race, so at least Norris doesn't come away with the full gambit of points, although Max Verstappen is currently my rival, which means that I am going to be probably even on points with him in the rivalry now as we go into Miami. Miami is a strong track for me though, so hopefully I can get him back, but we'll have to wait and see until the next video for whether that's going to happen or not. We come around the final few corners. I believe these are called the Ravazzas. I don't really know the name of any of the corners at Imola, but those ones, yeah, Ravazza was speaking to me. We crossed the line and it's good enough for P6. So yeah, pretty decent result all in all. I can't be too disappointed with that, given that it's one of my bogey tracks, and if I'm coming P6 in my bogey tracks, that means I'm definitely a shoe-in for the World Championship, as long as we can keep developing the car at a fast enough rate to stay in touch with the rest of the cars around us.
Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix winners can be justifiably proud of, and I'm sure there'll be celebrations tonight. And talk to me. What do you think it was that sealed the win for them?
Well, this was a real team victory. They put together a solid strategy today that appeared well suited to the conditions out on track. The driver did everything that was expected of them in the moment to really execute the team's plan to perfection. A shining example of how F1 really is a team sport.
Red Bull put up an outstanding fight for the front position today, and it's great to see it paid off for them. They do so much for the sport that you can't help but be delighted by today's race win. Lando Norris takes over the lead of the Drivers' Championship after that excellent result. So let's see what effect this result has had on the drivers' standings. So, Anthony Davidson, who would you rank as your driver of the day?
There's a few contenders, but George Russell definitely stood out, I think. A really solid drive from him today, and one I'm sure the fans enjoyed.
It's time to see how things are shaping up in the Constructors' Championship. Mercedes moved to the top of the table. There was also a strong showing from the McLaren team today as they make their way up the standings. After an event like that, who knows what the sport has in store for us next time out? Be sure to join us once again as we continue to bring you all the excitement of Formula One.
So we're down into P2 in the Drivers' Championship once again as Norris pulls out into P1 once again, but we have Imola. We have Miami coming up next, which I think I might be able to wrestle the leader of the championship back off of Norris in, but we'll have to wait and see what happens with that. As for the constructors, we move down to P4, and Red Bull are slowly gaining on us as well. They'll have had a pretty good time of having a race win in Imola, which means that I think without too much delay, they will be catching up to us in the constructors standings, and we may have to settle for a P5 fight once again. Although I think we might have a bit more skin in the P5 game this season on account of the fact that I've already had 3 race wins, and I definitely don't plan on making China my last race win of the season. I'll tell you that much. So yeah, in order to have a constructors championship fight, we really need a strong teammate, but I really don't want to have a strong teammate on my team until I can afford to have one, which is when I don't have to be constantly developing the car to stay in touch with the cars around us. So it's not until we get all Spec 3 development facilities, so everything other than personnel and marketing, that I am going to even consider signing someone who I actually think is going to be World Championship material. And then after that, we're basically immediately going to start putting any excess money we have into personnel development, because that is an area which is going to be super, super important for us. Let me know who you think I should sign at that point when we are ready to start fighting for the Constructors' Championship. It might not be till next season, it might not be till Season 5 even, that we can think about fighting for the Constructors' Championship. But when it happens, I want to have the best possible driver alongside me. I always want to get Gasly, but I think that's quite a common pick. I think Albon, honestly, could be quite a strong pick. Magnussen looks pretty good. It would be quite funny if I got Alonso, but I think given the history, I don't think it would work. It would be too Prost-Senna. And yeah, I'm trying to think if there's anyone else in particular. Schwartzman, honestly, could be quite strong. I could try and think about getting him back. Or maybe even someone like Zhou Guanyu or someone like that. But let me know what you think on who my future teammate should be when we go for our Constructors' Championship fight in a season or two's time. I was correct about myself and Verstappen being tied on points in the rivalry. He has definitely closed me up quite significantly, and that's not going to be good for our acclaim if we can't win that one. And the only solace I'll take away from it is that if we lose that rivalry, we'll be able to drop the difficulty by another point, which will make it easier for me to win. We don't get any of our sponsor target once again, because we only grabbed 8 points and we needed 10 to even reach one of those. So yeah, we really need to rethink our sponsor targets, I think. And we'll do that at our next opportunity. But that is going to be it for this video. If you enjoyed, please make sure you like and subscribe, and hopefully I will see you in the next one.